Since its founding in 1822, Hobart College has graduated exceptional men of caliber and promise. Hobart alumni are pioneers and innovators who raise their professions and communities to new heights. They excel as scientists and architects, humanitarians and public servants, athletes and scholars, religious leaders and statesmen. The Medal of Excellence, Hobart's highest honor, is given to an alumnus who, by reason of outstanding accomplishments in his particular business, profession, or community service, has brought honor and distinction to his alma mater. Recipients include the Most Reverend Michael B. Curry, Dr. Christopher C. Beyer, Reynold Levy, Jeremy N. Foley, Michael Hanna, the late Dr. Gary A. Mendez Jr., and Warren Littlefield. Into these esteemed ranks, we induct Clarence R. Dick Anderegg, Hobart class of 1967, a leader and mentor, warrior and historian, husband, father, grandfather, and friend. Clarence R. Dick Anderegg graduated in 1967 with a BA in English. He was captain of the swimming team, a member of Phi Sigma Kappa and Interfraternity Council, and a Saga employee. He was a member of the Arnold Air Society and a distinguished graduate of Hobart's Air Force ROTC program, earning the Theodore J. Shorak Jr. Award. Anderegg served as an active duty Air Force officer for 30 years, during which he commanded an F-15 squadron, was twice a fighter group commander, and twice a fighter wing vice commander. His final assignment was as commander of the Air Force ROTC in Pittsburgh, teaching students at 7 colleges and universities, including Carnegie Mellon and the University of Pittsburgh. He is a former F-4 Fighter Weapons School instructor pilot and flew more than 3,700 hours in the F-4C, D, E, G, and the F-15A, C, E, including 170 combat missions during the Vietnam War. His military decorations include the Legion of Merit with Oak Leaf Cluster, Distinguished Flying Cross with 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, Meritorious Service Medal with 5 Oak Leaf Clusters, and the Air Medal with 11 Oak Leaf Clusters. In 1987, he received a master's degree in international relations from Troy University. Following his retirement from the Air Force at the rank of colonel, Mr. Anderegg wrote several books, including The Ash Warriors, a first-hand account of the Mount Pinatubo eruptions and the subsequent evacuation of Clark Air Base, and Sierra Hotel, a history of the cultural changes that occurred in the U.S. Air Force Fighter Force in the decade following the Vietnam War. He worked for the RAND Corporation and served as an air power strategist during the planning and implementation of Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. In 2003, Anderegg became a member of the Air Force Senior Executive Service as Director of Air Force History and Museums, Policies and Programs, providing policy and guidance to a worldwide, multifaceted program. He was also Historical Advisor to the Secretary of the Air Force and the Air Force Chief of Staff. He fully retired in 2013, having dedicated more than 40 years of service to our nation and the Air Force. Today, he frequently appears on the Smithsonian Channel program, Air Warriors. As a Hobart alumnus, he has served as class agent, career services volunteer, was the Charter Day speaker in 2000, and is also a member of the Wheeler Society.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ludwig Gaines, Hobart College class of 1988 and president of the Hobart Alumni Association. I would like to take a few moments to welcome you to the 2021 Medal of Excellence presentation to retired Colonel C. Richard Anderegg, class of 67, United States Air Force, retired. As you just saw, today we honor a statesman who led and continues to lead a life of consequence through his service to our country. He is a statesman who, through his exemplary life of service, gives us cause and pause to be proud each and every day through the commitment he has shown to his chosen profession, to his family who are gathered here today, to his friends, and to the many that he's mentored and inspired throughout the years. Colonel Anderegg, thank you. As a son of Hobart, as president of the association, my pride and our pride this morning is filled with joy as we honor you with the Hobart Medal of Excellence, our highest distinction. You, sir, epitomize what it means to be a statesman: duty, mission, service, and honor. We are humbled to salute and celebrate you on this June 5th, 2021. I offer you my own personal hearty hip Hobart, and thank you for your service. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce President Joyce Jacobson, the first woman to serve as president of Hobart and William Smith Colleges. President Jacobson previously served as provost and senior vice president for academic affairs at Wesleyan University. She is a renowned scholar of economics, an award-winning teacher and skilled administrator with more than 3 decades of experience taking on increasingly complex roles in higher education. President Jacobson holds degrees from Harvard, the London School of Economics, and Stanford University. President Jacobson, we are happy that you are here and that you are able to join us this morning. And thank you all for joining us for this very special occasion. I will throw the proceedings to President Jacobson and just reiterate the profound honor and humility that we as an association have for this day and our delight in joining in this celebration.
Thank you, Ludwig. Thank you for those kind words, Ludwig, and thank you for your important leadership as president of the Alumni Association. My most sincere thanks to all of those joining us on the call today and for your participation in this unprecedented virtual reunion. Your continued engagement with the colleges and with each other proves the vital role that Hobart and William Smith has had in all of your lives. It is central to our identity and a unifier across time and distance. To the Alumni Association leadership, and in particular the Honors Committee, thank you. And of course, a special welcome to Dick Anderegg and his wife, Jean. I am delighted to be here as president of the colleges to mark this important moment in the history of our institution as we prepare to celebrate the bicentennial of Hobart College in 2022. Since the first presentation of the Medal of Excellence, only 43 other men have been singled out for this award by their fellow alumni to be recognized for their extraordinary professional success and community service. Prior recipients span diverse backgrounds of professional achievement that reflect the broad education these men received at Hobart and William Smith and the importance of a liberal arts education in preparation for leading lives of consequence. They include artists, doctors, bishops, lawyers, inventors, diplomats, television executives, athletic leaders, scientists, educators, heads of business, and entrepreneurs. Men who have brought great honor to their alma mater and who have proven in their every word and deed that they embody our mission to lead lives of consequence. Dick, you serve as an inspiration to our current students to achieve at such high levels, to encourage them to shake the world and make a difference in the same ways that you have done. Your induction to this prestigious list today is a profound honor for the colleges. Congratulations, and I thank you most sincerely for your service to our nation and your service to Hobart and William Smith Colleges.
Thank you, President Jacobson. Good morning and welcome. I'm Kurt Dawson, Hobart class of 75, and chairman of the Hobart Alumni Association's Honors Committee. President Jacobson, fellow alumni, alumnae, and honored guests, I am honored to represent the Alumni Association on this historic occasion and humbled to be in the company of such extraordinary members of our Hobart and William Smith community. As you can imagine, celebrating our most honored statesmen is one of the highlights of our work in Alumni House. The Hobart Medal of Excellence is the Alumni Association's highest honor, given to an alumnus who, by reason of outstanding accomplishment in his particular profession and business or community service, has brought honor and distinction to his alma mater. As we honor Dick Anderegg today, the recipient of the 2021 Hobart Medal of Excellence, we will be joined by some of Dick's closest friends and Hobart classmates, namely Mike Hanna, class of 1968, John Norbel, class of 1966, and Richard Toby Pugh, class of 1967. Together, this statesman trio will provide us with a very personal walk down memory lane as they describe the incredible man and the accomplishments that make up today's honored Hobart alumnus. First up, Mike Hanna. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Kurt, and good morning, everyone. What an honor it is to be part of this. And congratulations, Dick, and welcome to the Brotherhood of the Hobart College Medal of Excellence. And Jean, Amy, and John, you certainly have a stake in this. And on behalf of all of us here, I thank you for the support that you've given your husband and your father. And congratulations to all the Anderegg family gathered today. Dick and I share a friendship that spans almost 7 decades. It began as Little League rivals in Corey, Pennsylvania. At age 13, we became baseball teammates. And from 7th grade on, we were classmates. From all district band and at Corey Area High School and to the Future Teachers of America, from student council to being an exchange student to Norway, Dick was very much engaged in our high school community. He seized opportunities, and as my mother would say, he bloomed where he was planted. And those are no small skills for life. The economy of our small town in northwestern Pennsylvania sat firmly on farms and factories. So a solid work ethic was really a common virtue. I think Dick inherited his work ethic from his parents and from his grandparents. He became a finisher. He's a champion of following through, and somebody that I admire tremendously. Before Dick became a top-notch fighter pilot, teacher, author, husband, father, grandfather, and friend, he was a pretty good baseball catcher. And I wonder if there's more uncomfortable positions in life than squeezing into the cockpit of a jet fighter or crouching behind home plate on a hot summer day in catcher's gear. Pilots and catchers seem to have a lot in common in my mind. They both need to have be split second communicators, be split second decision makers. They're gritty, they have to be focused, and both have to have a sense of keen anticipation. Baseball catchers they sweet talk the umpires, they trash talk the batters, or a shrink for the pitchers, and the whole time they're digging wild pitches out of the dirt. I know this for a fact that if I were recruiting fighter pilots, I would take a long, hard look at baseball and softball catchers. And I know for sure that I would recruit Dick Anderegg. From Corey, I went on to a year of military prep school, and Dick came to Hobart, where you saw in the video as a ROTC cadet, captain of Hobart's first intercollegiate swimming team, his leadership began to take hold. Dick, a year later, I had to make the decision of a college to go to, and Dick, unbeknownst to him, played a pretty key role in this. I need to give you a little context ahead of time. My dad, Lou Hanna, was a teacher, football coach, athletic director at Corey Area High School. He also wrote the local news for the Erie paper and was a wedding photographer on the side. So it's that good old Corey work ethic, Dick. But my dad cared deeply for sports, particularly for the lessons for life that sports offered. But he cared more for the kids in our town. And Dick Anderegg never played a down of football for Lou Hanna, but my dad held him in high regard. And as I look back on our years when we were students and my dad was a teacher and a coach, I realized that Dad felt that way about Dick because of Dick's positive attitude, Dick's good manners. He made Corey High School a better place. And in my 40 years of college athletics, I really value guys who were lifters and not leaners. And Dick Anderegg has been a lifter all of his life and not a leaner. So my decision to follow Dick to Hobart really came down to one day when my dad and I were having a discussion. I was down to 2 or 3 schools, and he asked me a question that went pretty much like this. So Dick Anderegg's enjoying Hobart, I hear. I said, yeah. And he said, well, if a good citizen like that, a dedicated athlete, and a solid leader like Dick finds Hobart to be a good place to learn and to grow, what else is there to discuss? So a second Corey Little League baseball player became a statesman. And I would say this, and I know Dick would agree, that of all of the outcomes of Dick's career at Hobart and my career at Hobart, one stands out, and we share that outcome, and that is it's where we met our wonderful wives, Jane and Mary Ann. And I wasn't a math major, but I think right now between two couples we share almost a century of marriage. So Dick, I owe you big time for helping me find Hobart and for putting me in a place where I met my sweetheart. And finally, this. Ground troops in a combat zone have high appreciation for air support. In sunny Southeast Asia, helicopter gunships and souped up C-130s were formidable. But the royal flush of air support for ground troops were the phantoms that Dick and so many able aviators flew. Dick, the poise, expertise, and mental toughness of you and your fellow pilots and your ground crews saved countless lives, from Coast Guard gun crews to Army nurses, from MACV advisors to Marine Corps infantrymen. Countless good folks lived to serve another day, lived to return to the States, to their families and their futures. And on behalf of them, and especially on behalf of all the Hobart and William Smith folks who served on the ground in that conflict, I salute you and any pilots and ground and flight crew people who are on this call. I thank you one and all. Thanks, Dick, for shining a bright light on our hometown and on our alma mater. Congratulations on the Medal of Excellence, and Hip Hobart forever. It's now my privilege to introduce John Norbel, class of '66. As many of you know, John served for many years as director of alumni relations for the college, and was a trusted colleague of mine and remains a dear friend. Recently, John's had surgery, so he chose to, while he's with us today on the call, his voice is a little weak, so he chose to record his remarks a while back. And John, all of us here wish you the best, and we thank you for all that you've done for the alumni of the college, and especially for this particular initiative of recognizing Dick Anderegg. So here are John's remarks.
Good morning, I'm John Norbel, Hobart class of 1966. For most of my Air Force career, Dick Anderegg and I traveled in the same circles. So today I'm pleased to be part of this event honoring Dick. I'm often amazed that we did not cross paths. Fighter jocks have a strong belief in destiny. You are where you're meant to be. For Dick and me, that was first in the ROTC program at Hobart. Both Dick and I were not what you would consider to be future fighter jocks. Dick was an English major, and history was my thing. In 1967, while I studied at Syracuse University for a graduate degree, Dick went to pilot training, also my ultimate goal. As I said, fighter jocks believe in destiny. Dick did well and transitioned from trainers to the F-4 Phantom II. The F-4 Phantom II was the primary fighter of the Vietnam War. It had entered the inventory in the 1960s. It was relatively new. It was a two-seat fighter. The pilot in front was called the aircraft commander, and the rear seat pilot or navigator, the GIB, the guy in back. Dick got his Phantom. It would take me nearly 4 years to get mine because I failed the vision portion of the pilot physical. By the time I got to the Phantom's back seat as a navigator, Dick had flown 170 combat missions in the F-4D over North Vietnam and Laos. Although we never crossed paths in the Phantom, I flew with many fighter jocks. They all shared the same set of values, of which I am certain Dick demonstrated. Fighter pilots continually strove to do better. They trained to make their skills sharper. They were exceedingly confident. They were always in control. And looking at Dick's career, all these attributes made him the man he is today and gave him the skill sets he needed to fly in combat, to deal with the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, and later serve as the head of Air Force History and Museums. And this is where our careers came close together again. From 1985 to 1989, I served as the executive officer for the historian of the Air Force. So we come to another important characteristic of a fighter pilot. A fighter pilot is the ultimate teacher. They often have to explain complicated air combat maneuvers. It was this skill as a teacher that would serve Dick well in his career. A career that included time as a Laredo fast-forward air controller. In this role, he flew 40 combat missions. Laredo Fast Facts led strike missions. They were my heroes. They were always on the prowl, leading in other F-4s on target. Most F-4 jocks wished they had the opportunity to fly a Laredo mission. After the war, Dick graduated from the Fighter Weapons School. This is the Air Force equivalent of the Navy's Top Gun program. He served 2 tours of duty as an instructor pilot, teaching specialized courses in precision-guided munitions, the Maverick, an air-ground missile, and later laser-guided bombs. After a non-flying tour as a staff officer in the Pentagon, he commanded an F-15 squadron at Bitburg Air Force Base, Germany. He was then the Assistant Director of Operations at the F-4 training wing at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. In December 1988, he went to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, North Carolina, as Director of Operations. He then flew the new F-15 Strike Eagle on its first operational mission. In 1991, he assumed command of the 475th Weapons Evaluation Group at Tyndall. He was then responsible for conducting the Weapons System Evaluation Program. Dick served as an active duty officer for 30 years. Later, he was an air power and space power strategist in Project Checkmate during the planning and execution of operations for enduring freedom and Iraqi freedom in the Middle East. From 2003 to 2013, he served as director of the Air Force History and Museums programs. He provided policy guidance to 4 critical components of the Air Force History Program: the Air Force Historical Research Agency, the Air Force Museum System, the Historical Studies Office, and the Worldwide Air Force History Program. Dick also served as the historical advisor to the Secretary of the Air Force and the Air Force Chief of Staff. Today, he is again in his teacher role, frequently appearing on the Smithsonian Channel's program, Air Power, where he often discusses air power and aircraft. Not bad for an English major from Hobart.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Toby Pugh, class of 1967, and our dog Harley. I remember well Dick's 2013 retirement ceremony at the Pentagon after a decade of civil service as director of the Air Force History Office, where he had oversight of worldwide Air Force history, policies, programs, and museums. Several attendees were amongst the highest ranking officials at the Pentagon. Presiding was the Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff, who had requested that honor because in previous years he had learned so much about flying the F-15 from Dick. When Dick finally took the podium, he began with a significant life lesson. First of all, thank the wife. So I preface all my comments with joy and thanksgiving for Jean Anderegg, who's been one of the most dependable and loving spouses one could ever hope for. Jean, I honor you, I thank you, and I love you too. In 1963, in the fall of our freshman year, Dick and I found ourselves sitting together in detention hall, the result of some long forgotten teenage shenanigans. One of us had a copy of some magazine of interest to 18-year-old males, and we were able to conceal it behind our syllabus of Western Civilization 1. So passed the evening, and thus began a lifetime of friendship. We played an ROTC band together, pledged Phi Sig together, roomed together at the fraternity house, and later at an off-campus apartment across the street from the Oaks, and during senior year in Medbury Hall. We had both struggled during junior year and decided that in our final year, we would end each evening study time with 15 minutes reviewing and teaching the other what we had learned during that day. It worked. We graduated. And it appears that we learned an important lesson in passing on knowledge to others. Here's how it worked for Dick. Dick was a distinguished graduate of the Air Force ROTC. He commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force immediately following the graduation ceremony in June of 1967. The very next day, he and Jean were married at St. John's Chapel. My father, an Episcopal priest, married them, and I was honored to serve as best man. What a memorable and joyful day that was. We were able to visit while Dick was in pilot training in Laredo Air Force Base, Texas. I remember him sitting in his tiny apartment learning landing patterns using a toilet plunger as a control stick and a Coke bottle as a throttle. It must have worked, as he was again a distinguished graduate, garnering a top award. Not long after that, we spent an evening together in San Francisco before he left for the Vietnam War, where he successfully flew 170 combat missions in the F-4 fighter. He was awarded the Distinguished Cross 3 times, along with 11 air medals. After Dick's safe return, I was honored to act as godfather to their son, John, with my father again officiating at the baptism. Thanks to continued Air Force standby flights, I was able to visit with Dick and Jean to celebrate John's first birthday while they were stationed in England. Dick was a student and later a notable instructor at the Air Force Fighter Weapons School at Nellis, where Amy was born. From there, he spent a few years at the Pentagon and then as commander of the 525th Tactical Fighter Squadron in Bitburg, Germany, a job requiring both leadership and teaching skills. He became fighter group commander at Tyndall, and from there he was assigned to help teach and transition Seymour Johnson from F-4s to F-15Es. He was then assigned to Clark Air Base in the Philippines as the fighter wing vice commander. That was when Mount Pinatubo volcano erupted. It was the second largest eruption in the 20th century, followed almost immediately by a typhoon that caused extensive and permanent damage to Clark and the surrounding areas. Through all of this, with Jean and their daughter Amy at his side, Dick successfully led the crisis action team, safely evacuating 11,000 people from Clark Air Base in 6 hours, for which he was awarded the Legion of Merit. Dick then became the fighter group commander back at Tyndall and later fighter wing vice commander, and then spent 2 years as the commander of the Air Force ROTC program in Pittsburgh, a fitting bookend to his military career. He told me more than once what a rewarding experience that teaching position was for him. After his retirement from active duty in 1997, he was a consultant to the Rand Corporation, wrote 2 of his 4 books, and then took on the aforementioned director of Air Force History Office as a civil servant. In addition to his constant teaching and leadership in the Air Force, Dick has now authored 2 more books and for many years volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. He's also passed on knowledge while being interviewed for several documentaries for the History Channel and the Smithsonian Channel. He was also selected by the Secretary of Defense to serve as the President's Oversight Committee for the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War, whose purpose was to organize thousands of events nationwide to say thank you to Vietnam era vets and their family. In the first T program, he teaches youngsters about golf and therefore about life. He and Jean have been lifelong mentors, not only to their children, John and Amy, to my daughter, Meredith, but also to their 3 grandsons, tutoring in academic skills, instructing during golf and hunting adventures, and ultimately teaching about life. Dick and Jean. Our lifelong friendship started here at Hobart and William Smith colleges and has lasted now almost 60 years. Outside of my immediate family, you are my oldest and dearest friends. Dick served as best man for me twice, and it takes a special kind of friend to do that and to enjoy it both times. You have been loving supporters during life's darker moments and have joyfully celebrated many successes together. These careers, these lives together, these families, and all those whom you have touched started on the campus of Hobart and William Smith colleges, where we learned how to learn, and so learned how to pass on knowledge to others. And Dick, you are certainly one of the best at that. Personally, I want to add that in honoring Dick here today with the Hobart Medal of Excellence, we also honor all students and alumni who choose lives of service. And today, especially, we honor those who choose service to our country as military and military veterans, in addition to all who live lives of consequence and service to our families, our friends, and our communities. And for that, Hobart College, and for that, Dick and Jean Anderegg, we are forever grateful. Congratulations. Now, I would like to invite Dick and Jean for the medal presentation.
Okay, I'll start again. Good morning, President Jacobson, special guests, family and friends. I'm honored to accept this medal as a representative of the many men and women of the colleges who have served in our nation's military. Thank you to the Alumni Association, its chairman, Mr. Gaines, and its membership for selecting me and therefore recognizing the many contributions we veterans have made to our colleges and our nation. The Air Force ROTC program of Hobart produced fine officers before its unfortunate demise a few years after I was commissioned. Lieutenant General Jack Woodward, for example, class of 1968, is one of our superstars, but the list of others who served with distinction in all branches of the military is long. Many of you are here celebrating with us today. I hope I've made you proud. Behind the scenes work is the hardest, so a very special thanks to Lieutenant Colonel John Norbel, who guided this award through the wickets, Mike Hanna, Toby Pugh, Kurt Dawson, and especially Chevy Devaney and Kira Costantino from the Hobart William Smith team. A great job, everyone. And last but not least, thanks to my family, who sacrificed with few complaints the 17 times we uprooted from the comforts of close friends and established routine. Jean, John, and Amy, you've been the best. I love you. And I did that without crying.
Yay!
Yay, my family knows I'm immediate waterworks in emotional times. Both my parents were factory workers with 8th grade educations, and I spent my first 5 years of grade school in a one-room country school with one teacher for 6 grades and a girls' outhouse out back on one side and a boys' outhouse out back on the other side. But there was never any doubt in our household that I was going to go to college. I loved reading and writing. Math and science, not so much. So of course, I decided that I wanted to be a doctor. A high school English teacher whom I adored suggested Hobart because of a superb pre-med program, and it had Air Force ROTC. Her daughter was at William Smith, so that was good enough for me. I applied for early admission and went to Geneva for an interview with John Whitty. I wore a white shirt, black knit tie, khaki pants, and my letter sweater, of course. It was a big day for me, but it was a scary October night for the nation. We watched on TV that evening as President Kennedy announced the blockade of Cuba. 2 weeks later, I got my letter of acceptance. My mom and dad were very proud. The pre-med thing didn't last long. Square peg, round hole. I switched to English and embraced ROTC, and I have never regretted it. It may seem counterintuitive that an English major from a liberal arts college would succeed as a fighter pilot, but I will tell you that the critical thinking skills that I learned at Hobart dovetailed very nicely with the demands of flying fighters. It took me a couple of years in the Air Force to realize, even as an unremarkable student I had been at Hobart, I had acquired critical thinking skills that many around me simply hadn't learned. Now, a bit of a confession. When I went to pilot training, I had no intention of staying in the Air Force beyond my 4-year commitment. I planned to go straight to the airlines and make the big bucks. But the people I met in the Air Force changed my mind right away. Integrity, we all had this same shit. We had shared values: love of nation, integrity, thirst for excellence, and a commitment to service above self. The dedication of the maintenance crews, the communicators, the intelligence personnel, the security people, and many others, including teams like medical teams, made it a wonderful feeling for me to be part of something larger than myself. Originally, the Air Force seemed to me like a fraternity, but quickly evolved into a family for which I have deep love. Plus, I confess, I did relish the swirling and twirling world and the precision that was required in flying fighters. Today marks the 26th year, plus 3 days, since my final flight in the F-15 Eagle. But who's counting? I'm often asked if I miss flying those fantastic jets. The answer is no. What I miss are the people. We have the best Air Force in the world because we have the best people. Whether leading or following, they teach, inspire, and take care of each other. At about the 5-year point in my career, I became an instructor pilot in the F-4 Phantom II. It was the start of a lifetime of teaching. Right away, I figured out that one never truly knows how to do something until one tries to teach it. We have a joke in the Air Force about learning. See one, do one, teach one. I love teaching, so my 10 years as a historian of the Air Force gave me an enormous student body, if you will, and an opportunity to make every day a school day. My 7 years on the Presidential Commission to thank Vietnam era veterans and their families amplified that opportunity. So here I am today wearing this incredible medal, surrounded by my family. Jean and I met when I was her waiter in the Comstock dining room. She has been my beloved partner for more than 54 years. Our son, John, helps keep our nation safe as a federal law enforcement officer, while his talented and beautiful wife, Michelle, keeps their family trained on the tracks. John's sons are now here today. The oldest, Ian, an Army ROTC scholarship student at UVA Wise, is currently at summer camp at Fort Knox, which is where Jean was born, and later spent her Vietnam year when her husband, her father, and her brother were all serving in war at the same time. Evan, the middle grandson, my best golfing and hunting buddy, was working at a great golf course this summer and is headed back to college this fall. Our beautiful daughter, Amy, is a fierce patriot who is not afraid of demonstrating her beliefs. She is also the tech whiz who set up our end of the Zoom today. Her husband, Troy, makes music that entertains the world. Their son, Michael, the youngest grand, is a brilliant mind, an awesome drummer, and a Navy junior ROTC cadet in high school. I'm incredibly proud of my family, and am so happy that most of them are here with me today. Well, it's been a grand morning. Thanks again to the Hobart Alumni Association and all of you who joined the celebration in your homes or offices. A giant thank you has to go to Hobart College itself for teaching me how, why, and what to learn. Skills which I try to use and pass on every day in my quest to live a life of consequence. One final thought. I could quote from John Donne or Shakespeare, and perhaps it would be the first time I impressed Blydenberg, Cook, or Atkinson. But another poet, Jimmy Buffett, says it for me. Some of it's magic and some of it's tragic, but it's been a good life all the way. Hip Hobart.
Hip Hobart.
Well, good morning. My name is Chaplain Jason Phipps, United States Army. I'm currently serving as a chaplain at Arlington National Cemetery. And Colonel Anderegg, congratulations on receiving such a prestigious award. And I must say, on a personal note, having come from a special operations unit just prior to my time at Arlington, that we definitely, when we were deployed, relied upon men like you to provide closed air support for our Rangers. And I thank you for being the progenitor of what we see today overseas and the protection that you have provided over the decades to those ground troops that Mr. Hanna spoke of earlier. Would you all please join me now as we close out our time in a word of prayer? Gracious God, we come into your presence this morning, acknowledging that you are indeed the restorer of concord among your creation. I believe that you strive to maintain unity, be it by the battle bow or the person of peace, that each individual accomplishes your will through the ways in which you have gifted them. As we close out this time of recognition and reflection, God, I earnestly pray that your desire for authentic unity would be at the forefront of our hearts and minds. You maintain perfect unity as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and you charge us to do the same. Lord, by your providence, you have ordained Colonel Anderegg to be an ambassador, a representative for all service members who have given by way of their own sacrificial nature. I pray that you would continue to raise up future generations of leaders to walk in these very same footsteps, footsteps rooted in a spirit of humility. Lord, thank you for meeting with us today. Moving forward, God, we plead for your blessings for those who have gathered here today, for those who serve this nation, and for the leadership at Hobart and William Smith colleges. To you, O Lord, be all glory and honor now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Phipps. My thanks go out to all of today's presenters and everyone who attended this historic session. Thank you to our staff for putting together a fantastic presentation in difficult virtual times. Thank you, Hobart Alumni Association, for your leadership. Thank you, Hobart veterans, for your service. And finally, thank you, Dick and Jean Anderegg. Have a great day, everyone, and I hope to see you all on campus next June for the Bicentennial and Reunion 2022. Thank you very much.